Test, test. Exodus chapter 7. Yahweh then said to Moses, Look, I have made you as a god for Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron is to be your prophet. You must say whatever I command. You and your brother Aaron will repeat to the Pharaoh that he is to let the Israelites leave his country. But I shall make Pharaoh stubborn and shall perform many a sign and wonder in Egypt. Since Pharaoh would not listen to you, I shall lay my hand on Egypt and with great acts of judgment lead my armies, my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. And the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh when I stretch out my hand against the Egyptians and lead the Israelites out of their country. Moses and Aaron did exactly as Yahweh had ordered. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. The plagues of Egypt. The staff turned into a snake. Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, If Pharaoh says to you, display some marvel, you must say to Aaron, Take your staff and throw it down in front of Pharaoh and let it turn into a serpent. Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did as Yahweh had ordered. Aaron threw down his staff in front of Pharaoh and his officials, and it turned into a serpent. Then Pharaoh, in his turn, called for his sages and sorcerers, and by their spells the magicians of Egypt did the same. Each threw his staff down, and these turned into serpents. But Aaron's staff swallowed up theirs. For Pharaoh, however, remained obstinate, and as Yahweh had foretold, refused to listen to Moses and Aaron. The first plague, the water turns to blood. Yahweh then said to Moses, Pharaoh is adamant, he refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh tomorrow morning as he makes his way to the water. Confront him on the river bank, and in your hand take the staff that turned into a snake. Say to him, Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, sent me to say, Let my people go and worship in the desert. Up till now you have refused to listen. This is what Yahweh says. You will know that I am Yahweh by this. With the staff that is in my hand, I shall strike the water of the river, and they will turn to blood. The fish in the river will die, and the river will stink, and the Egyptians will not be able to drink the river water. Yahweh said to Moses, Say to Aaron, Take your staff and stretch out your hands over the waters of Egypt, over their rivers and canals, their marshland and all their reservoirs, and they will turn to blood. There will be blood throughout the whole of Egypt, even in sticks and stones. Moses and Aaron did as Yahweh ordered. He raised his staff and struck the waters of the river, with Pharaoh and his officials looking on, and all the water in the river turned to blood. The fish in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could no longer drink the river water. Throughout the whole of Egypt there was blood, but by their spells the magicians of Egypt did the same. Pharaoh remained obstinate, and as Yahweh had foretold, refused to listen to Moses and Aaron. Pharaoh turned away and went back into his palace, taking no notice of this, even of this. And the Egyptians all dug holes along the river bank in search of drinking water, since they could not drink the river water. After Yahweh struck the river, 7 days went by. The second plague, the frogs. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Yahweh says this, Let my people go and worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I shall strike your whole territory with frogs. The river will swarm with frogs. They will make their way into your palace, into your bedroom, onto your bed, into the houses of your officials and subjects, into your ovens, into your kneading bowls. The frogs will actually clamber onto you, onto your subjects, and onto all your officials. Yahweh then said to Moses, Say to Aaron, Stretch out your hand with your staff over the rivers, the canals, and the marshland, and bring the frogs up over the land of Egypt. So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But by their spells the magicians did the same, bringing frogs over to the land of Egypt. Pharaoh then summoned Moses and Aaron and said, Entreat Yahweh to take the frogs away from me and my subjects, and I promise to let the people go and sacrifice to Yahweh. Moses said to Pharaoh, You are the one to gain by it. When would you when would you like me to pray for you, your officials, and your subjects, so as to rid you and your houses of the frogs, so that they will be left only in the river? Tomorrow, he said. Moses said, "It shall be as you say, so that you will know that there is no one like Yahweh our God. The frogs will leave you, your houses, your officials, and your subjects will be only left in the river." Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh's presence, and Moses pleaded with Yahweh about the frogs which he had inflicted on Pharaoh. Yahweh did as Moses asked, and in house and courtyard and field the frogs died. They piled them up in heaps, and the country stank. But once Pharaoh saw that there had been a respite, he became obstinate, and as Yahweh had foretold, refused to listen to them. The third plague, the mosquitoes. Yahweh then said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the earth, and it will turn into mosquitoes throughout the whole of Egypt." Aaron stretched out his hand with his staff and struck the dust of the earth, and there were mosquitoes on man and beast. All the dust of the earth turned into mosquitoes throughout the whole of Egypt. By their spells, the magicians tried to produce mosquitoes in the same way, but failed, and there were mosquitoes on man and beast. So the magician said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh was obstinate, and as Yahweh had foretold, refused to listen to them. The fourth plague, the horseflies. Yahweh then said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and confront Pharaoh as he makes his way to the water. Say to him, Yahweh says this, let my people go and worship me. But if you not let my people go, I shall send horseflies on you, on your officials, your subjects, and your houses. The Egyptian houses will swarm with houseflies, and so will the very ground they stand on. But I shall exempt the region of Goshen where my people are living. That day there will be no horseflies there, so that you will now know that I am Yahweh here in this country. I shall make a distinction between my people and your people. This land will take place tomorrow." Yahweh did this, and great swarms of horseflies found their way into Pharaoh's palace, into his official's house, and all over Egypt. The country was ruined by horseflies. Pharaoh then summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go and sacrifice to your God inside the country." "That would never do," Moses said, "since what we sacrifice to Yahweh our God is outrageous to the Egyptians. If the Egyptians see us offering sacrifice which outrage them, won't they stone us? We shall make a 3 days journey into the desert to sacrifice to Yahweh our God, and as he has ordered us." Pharaoh said, "I will let you go and sacrifice to Yahweh your God in the desert, provided you do not go very from me, the moment I leave you." Moses said, I shall pray to Yahweh. Tomorrow morning the houseflies will leave Pharaoh, his officials, and his subjects. But Pharaoh must stop trifling with us by not allowing the people to go and sacrifice to Yahweh." Moses then left Yahweh's presence and prayed to Yahweh, and Yahweh did as Moses asked. The horseflies left Pharaoh, his officials, and his subjects. Not one remained, but Pharaoh became obstinate this time and did not let the people go. The fifth plague, death of the Egyptians' livestock. Yahweh then said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, says this, let my people go and worship me. If you refuse to let them go and detain them any longer, look, the hand of Yahweh will strike your livestock in the fields, horses, donkeys, camels, oxen, and flocks with a deadly plague. Yahweh will discriminate between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt. Nothing of what belongs to the Israelites will die. Yahweh has fixed the time. Tomorrow he has said, Yahweh will do this in the country. Next day, Yahweh did this. All the Egyptians' livestock died, but nothing of the livestock owned by the Israelites died. Pharaoh had inquiries made and found that of the livestock owned by the Israelites, not a single beast had died. But Pharaoh was obstinate and did not let the people go. That's sixth plague, the boils. Yahweh then said to Moses and Aaron, "Take a handful of soot from the kiln, and before Pharaoh's eyes let Moses throw it in the air. It will turn into fine dust over the whole of Egypt and produce boils, breaking into sores on man and beast throughout the whole of Egypt." So they took soot from the kiln and stood in front of Pharaoh, and Moses threw in the air, and on man and beast It brought out boils breaking into sores, and the magicians could not compete with Moses in the matter of the boils, for the magicians were covered with boils like all the other Egyptians. But Yahweh made Pharaoh stubborn, and as Yahweh had foretold to Moses, he did not listen to them. The seventh plague, the hail. Yahweh then said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and confront Pharaoh. Say to him, Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, says this: Let my people go and worship me. For this time I am going to inflict all my plagues on you, on your officials, and on your subjects, so that you will know that there is no one like me in the whole world. Had I stretched out my hand to strike you and your subjects with pestilence, you would have been swept from the earth. But I have let you survive for this reason, to display my power to you, and to have my name talked of throughout the world. Since you take a high hand with my people, refusing to let them go. Very well. At about this time tomorrow, I shall cause so severe a hail to fall as was never in Egypt from the day of its foundation until now. So now, send word to have your livestock and everything else you own in the fields put under cover. On man or beast, all that happen to be in the fields and are not brought indoors, the hail will fall and they will die. Those of Pharaoh's officials who respected what Yahweh said brought their slaves and livestock indoors, but those who did not take to heart what Yahweh said left their slaves and livestock in the field. Yahweh then said to Moses, Stretch out your hand towards heaven so that it hails throughout the whole of Egypt, on man and beast, and on everything growing anywhere in Egypt. Moses stretched out his staff towards heaven, and Yahweh thundered and rained down hail. Lightning struck the earth, and Yahweh rained down hail on Egypt. And so there was hail, and lightning accompanied with the hail, very severe, such as never seen anywhere in Egypt since it first became a nation. All over Egypt the hail struck down everything in the fields, man and beast, and all the hail beat down everything growing in the fields, and shattered all the trees in the fields. The only place where there was no hail was in the Goshen region, where the Israelites lived. Pharaoh then sent for Moses and Aaron and said, This time I have sinned. Yahweh is in the right, and I and my subjects are in the wrong. Pray to Yahweh, for we cannot bear any more of this thunder and hail. I promise to let you go. You will need stay no longer. Moses said to him, The moment I leave the city, I shall stretch out my hands to Yahweh. The thunder will stop, and there will be no more hail, so that you know the earth belongs to Yahweh. But as for you and your officials, I know very well that you still have no respect for Yahweh God. The flax and the barley were ruined, since the barley was in the ear and the flax in bud, but the wheat and spelt were not destroyed, being late crops. Moses left Pharaoh and went out of the city. He stretched out his hands to Yahweh, and the thunder and hail ceased, and the rain stopped pouring down on the earth. When Pharaoh saw that rain and hail and thunder had stopped, he relapsed into sin, and he and his officials became obstinate again. Pharaoh was stubborn, and as Yahweh had foretold through Moses, refused to let the Israelites go. The eighth plague, the locust. Yahweh then said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh, for I have made him and his officials stubborn, to display these signs of mine among them, so that you can tell your sons and your grandsons how I made fools of the Egyptians and what signs I performed among them, so that you would know that I am Yahweh. Moses and Aaron then went to Pharaoh and said to him, Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, says this: How much longer will you refuse to submit to me? Let my people go and worship me. Or if you refuse to let my people go tomorrow, I shall send locusts into your country. They will cover the surface of the soil so that the soil cannot be seen. They will devour the remainder of what has escaped and what you have been left after the hail. They will devour all your trees growing in the fields. They will fill your houses, all your officials' houses, and all the Egyptians' houses, something your ancestors and your ancestors' ancestors have never seen from the day they first appeared on earth until now. Then he turned on his heel and left Pharaoh's presence. At which Pharaoh's officials said to him, How much longer are we to be tricked by this fellow? Let the people go and worship Yahweh their God. Do you not finally realize that Egypt is on the brink of ruin? So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, who said to them, Go and worship your God, but who are to go? Moses replied, We shall take our young men and our old men. We shall take our sons and daughters, our flocks and herds, since we are going to hold a feast in Yahweh's honor. Pharaoh said, So I must let you go with your wives and children. May Yahweh preserve you. Plainly, you are up to no good. Oh no. You men may go and worship Yahweh, since that was your original request. With that, they were driven from Pharaoh's presence. Yahweh then said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over Egypt for the locusts. Let them invade Egypt and devour whatever is growing in the country, whatever the hill has left. Moses stretched his staff over Egypt and over the country. Yahweh had sent an east wind which blew all that day and on and night. By morning the east wind had brought the locusts. The locusts invaded the whole of Egypt and settled all over Egypt in great swarms. Never had there been so many locusts before, nor would there ever be again. They covered the surface of the ground till the land was devastated. They devoured whatever was growing in the fields and all the fruit on the trees that the hail had left. No grain was left on tree or plant in the fields anywhere in Egypt. Pharaoh sent urgently for Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against Yahweh your God and against you. Now forgive my sin, I implore you, just this once, and entreat Yahweh your God to turn this deadly thing away from me. When Moses left Pharaoh's presence, he prayed to Yahweh, and Yahweh changed the wind into a west wind, very strong, which carried the locusts away and swept them into the sea of reeds. There was not one locust left in the whole of Egypt. But Yahweh made Pharaoh stubborn. He did not let the Israelites go. The ninth plague of the darkness. Yahweh then said to Moses, Stretch out your hand towards heaven and let darkness so thick that it can be felt, cover Egypt. So Moses stretched out his hand towards heaven, and for 3 days there was a thick darkness over the whole of Egypt. No one could see anyone else or move about for 3 days. But all the Israelites did have light where they were living. Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, Go and worship Yahweh, but your flocks and herds are to stay here. Your wives and children can go with you too. Moses said, But now you must give us sacrifices and burnt offerings to offer to Yahweh our God, and our livestock will go with us too. Not a hoof will be left behind, for our God. No, for we may need animals from these to worship Yahweh our God. For until we get there, we ourselves cannot tell how we are to worship Yahweh. But Yahweh made Pharaoh stubborn, and he refused to let them go. Pharaoh said to Moses, Out of my sight, be sure you never see my face again, for the next time you see my face, you die. Moses then said, You yourself have said it, I shall never see your face again. Announcement of the death of the firstborn. Yahweh then said to Moses, I shall inflict one more plague on Pharaoh in Egypt, after which he will let you go away. When he lets you go, he will actually drive you out. Now instruct the people that every man is to ask his neighbor and every woman hers for silver and golden jewelry. And Yahweh made the Egyptians impressed with the people, while Moses himself was a man of great importance in Egypt and in the opinion of Pharaoh's officials and the people. Moses then said, Yahweh says this, At midnight I shall pass through Egypt, and all the firstborn in Egypt will die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh, heir to his throne, to the firstborn of the slave girl at the mill, and all the firstborn of the livestock. And throughout Egypt there will be great wailing, such as never was before nor will be again. But again the Israelites, whether man or beast, never a dog shall bark, so that you may know that Yahweh discriminates between Egypt and Israel. Then all these officials of yours will come down to me, and bowing low before me, say, Go away, you and all the people who follow you. After which I shall go, and hot with anger he left Pharaoh's presence. Yahweh then said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that more of my wonders may be displayed in Egypt. Moses and Aaron worked all these wonders in Pharaoh's presence, but Yahweh made Pharaoh stubborn, and he did not let the Israelites leave his country. The Passover. Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, This month must be the first of all the months for you, the first month of the year. Speak to the whole community of Israel and say, "On the 10th day of this month, each man must take an animal from his flock, one animal for each household. If the household is too small for the animal, he must join with his neighbor nearest to his house, depending on the number of persons. When you choose the animal, you will take into account what each can eat. It must be an animal without blemish, a male, 1 year old. He may choose it either from the sheep or from the goats. You must keep it to the 14th day of the month, when the whole assembly of community will slaughter it at twilight. Some of the blood must be taken and put on the both doorposts and the lintel of the houses where it is eaten. That night the flesh must be eaten, roasted over the fire, and must be eaten with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted over the fire, with the head, feet, and entrails. You must not leave any of it over till the morning. Whatever is left till morning, you must burn. This is how you must eat it: with a belt around your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. You must eat it hurriedly. It is a Passover in Yahweh's honor. That night I shall go through Egypt and strike down all the firstborn in Egypt, man and beast alike, and shall execute justice on all the gods of Egypt. I, Yahweh. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and you will escape the destructive plague when I strike Egypt. This day must be commemorated by you, and you must keep it as a feast in Yahweh's honor. You must keep it as a feast day for all generations. This is a decree for all time. The Feast of Unleavened Bread. For 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you must clean the leaven out of your houses. For anyone who eats leavened bread from the first to the 7th day must be outlawed from Israel. On the first day you must hold a sacred assembly, and on the 7th day a sacred assembly. On these days no work may be done. You will prepare only what each requires to eat. You must keep your feast of unleavened bread, because it was on the same day that I brought your armies out of Egypt. You will keep that day, generation after generation. This is a decree for all the time. In the first month, from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day, you must eat unleavened bread. For 7 days there may be no leaven in your houses, since anyone, either stranger or citizen of the country, who eats leavened bread will be outlawed from the community of Israel. You will eat nothing with leaven in it. Whether you live, you will eat unleavened bread. Wherever you live, you will eat unleavened bread. Injunctions relating to the Passover. Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go and choose a lamb or kid for your families and kill the Passover victim. Then take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and with that blood from the basin, touch the lintel and both doorposts. Then let none of you venture out of the house till morning. Then, when Yahweh goes through Egypt to strike it and sees the blood on the lintel on both doorposts, he will pass over the door. He will not allow the destroyer to enter your homes and strike. You will observe this as a decree binding you and your children for all time. When you have entered the country which Yahweh would give you as he promised, you will observe this ritual. And when your children ask you, "What does this ritual mean?" you will tell them, "It is the Passover sacrifice in honor of Yahweh who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and struck Egypt, but spared our houses." And the people bowed in worship. The Israelites then went away and did as Yahweh had ordered Moses and Aaron. The 10th plague. Death of the firstborn. And at midnight Yahweh struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, heirs to his throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock. Pharaoh and his officials and all the Egyptians got up in the night, and there was a great wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without its dead. It was still dark when Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Up, leave my subjects, you and the Israelites. Go and worship Yahweh as you have asked, and take your flocks and herds as you have asked, and go, and bless me too." The Egyptians urged the people on and hurried them out of the country, because they said, "Otherwise we shall all be dead." So the people carried off their dough still unleavened, their bowls wrapped in their cloaks on their shoulders. The Egyptians plundered. The Israelites did as Moses had told them and asked the Egyptians for silver and gold jewelry and clothing. Yahweh made the Egyptians so much impressed with the people that they gave them what they asked for, so they despoiled the Egyptians.